are currently researching on the inclusiveness of the differently abled population in our country, and so far the results are not really satisfying. So the question would be, in your vision, what exact policies will you be enacting to make sure that the differently abled population is included? And also my second question would be on the mental health well-being, like what policies will you be enacting if you preferably lead a future regime?
I'm glad that you asked this question. If you do remember, I mentioned about two charters, the Youth and the Women's Charter, which we signed as social contracts in order to fulfill the expectations of those two sectors in our society. We formulated a similar charter, a disabled charter. We use the word disabled with the concurrence and approval of the representatives of several societies and associations. So the disabled charter, or the differently abled charter, which we signed, possessed a series of steps in terms of protecting their rights and protecting their needs. And we had formulated a time-targeted approach. Soon after the conclusion of the presidential elections, we had a time-targeted approach to achieve those objectives that were stated in those charters. But unfortunately, the will of the people prevailed with my opponent. And that's also one of the most disappointing aspects, inability to transform and translate the declaratory policies that we enunciated into practical policy implementation. Now, having said that, since I ended up in the opposition, we are bestowed with a privilege through the standing orders to question the government on issues of national importance. So through that provision, as the opposition leader, I raised once again the expectations, rights, and the needs of the disabled stroke differently abled communities in our society, which I believe, according to the stats that were provided to me, close upon 1.7 million, roughly, are impacted. So I did receive an answer. Of course, it was not a time-targeted approach that was mentioned in the answer, but I will still strive to champion the cause of the differently abled communities and citizens of our country. Second, you mentioned the issue of mental health. I think the well-being of people of our country and a focus on the mental health of the people of our country and those who are impacted by mental health issues should be given greater priority in the national health policy agenda. I think a larger proportion of governmental resources should be directed to focus on this particular subject area. And I also perceive that there is a general stigmatization of our society in terms of addressing these issues, such as mental health, such as the rights and needs of the differently abled, disabled communities of our country. One must not forget that they too are citizens of our country. They too have rights. They too have expectations and dreams, which we, as representatives of people who are at the centers of power, should use the initiative to achieve the objectives that are propounded by these two sets of groups. So I am very much cognizant of the importance of attending to the needs and wants of the differently abled in our society and those who are impacted by mental health issues.